Hi guys and welcome back. In today's video we are going to take a quick look at some of checking and calculating options for formulas in Excel. Now it's useful to know this before we go into much details in formulas and functions, as this can help you resolve any issues that you might be having in calculation steps. Now we are going to start with coming over here to our formulas tab in our ribbon. So it's the fourth one here. And we are going to come over to this formula addition box. Now one of the first useful options that we have in here is this show formulas button, which you can also use the shortcut Ctrl and apostrophe to get. And if we click in this, what it will do is it will show the formulas that are in all of our cells in our workbook. So you can see here that I have got a number of errors and VLOOKUPs in these cells and some multiplication in here, and our total rows are doing sums. So this can be useful if you want to quickly see which cells have formulas in them and what those might look like without having to click into each individual cell. But as you can see, it's expanded out our different columns and makes our workbook possibly a little bit difficult to read. So if we turn that back off, our workbook will go back to normal. The second option that we have in this formula addition section is this trace dependence and trace precedence buttons. So we click in the trace dependence. What this will do is it will look at your formula and it will tell you any other cells that are dependent on the value in here. So if we click in this, you will see one arrow appears and it's saying that this value in this cell is used in formula in this cell. So if we click in here, you can see that that is the case. In a similar manner, this trace precedence button, if we click in that, it will again put in an arrows that shows you where the elements that makes the formula in this cell are coming from. This is similar to clicking into your cell, and it's showing you in highlighted colors where the different elements of your formula are coming from. If we want to remove the arrows, we click on the remove arrows button, or we can select the drop down list and simply remove either the dependence or precedence arrows. If you find you are getting arrows in your worksheet, so for example if I take out this formula, the if error function, because it's looking up a blank value and we are getting a not applicable in here, what we can do from anywhere in the sheet, we can click on this arrow checking button, and what it will do is it will tell you the cells that it's finding arrows in. So there are a number of arrows to our worksheet now because this one's coming up as an error, and the options it give you if you can get help on this error, which will take you to a web page. You can trace the errors, so if this error is actually being caused by an error in earlier cell, then you can trace back where it comes from. So if we click trace error, you can see that it's coming back to this cell here. You can choose to ignore it, or you can edit your formula bar. Now what we want to do in this instance is we want to come back to root of cause the problem, which is this cell here. So the start of the read line. Click in this first cell here and click on error checking. you will find it's highlighting that this formula is an issue, and it's basically saying that a value is not available to the formula or a function. So essentially what it's saying here is that it's trying to look at the blank value. So if we click into show calculation steps, you can see that this formula that Excel is having an issue with. Click evaluate and it shows you that you are getting a not applicable response. So it's highlighting at the moment that F15 is where it's finding the issue, and it is because it's looking up the value and that value is blank. So if we were to fix that by putting in a value here, juice 7, obviously it's now at looking at the blank value and you no longer have the error. What we actually want to do is put the f error function back in front so that the formula is returning a 0 value rather than an error. If it is trying to look up a blank value, you can evaluate any formula in your workbook. However, this formula is probably most useful if you are using very complex formulas, and it is something that we might touch on later videos. Some other useful options to understand before you start working with formulas and functions are these calculation options. Now by default your worksheet will generally be set up to calculate all formulas automatically. However, in very large complex data sets or in certain instances, you might not want to formulas calculated automatically, so you might set it to manual. And if you do this, what will happen if you update any of these figures? So say we update this to 10.99, you will notice that it doesn't actually update in this table until we hit calculate now. Calculate now will calculate all formulas through your entire workbook, all tabs. If you just want to calculate the sheet that you are working in, you can click calculate sheet. If you are finding that for some reason your formulas in your workbook aren't calculating, it is worthwhile coming in here and checking whether you have the manual option selected. So has been just a brief introduction into some of the calculation options in Excel and some of the options that you might have for checking your formulas. I hope that you find this video useful. Please give us your positive review and I see you in the next video.